This meeting is held remotely pursuant to provisions of action taken on March 29th, 2023 by Governor Healy, which further extends temporary provisions pertaining to the open meeting law to March 31st, 2025. The temporary provisions were first implemented by executive order in March 2020 by Governor Baker during the state of emergency, as amended several times to extend the expiration. Specifically, this action allows public bodies to continue holding meetings remotely without a quorum of the public body physically present at the meeting location, and to provide adequate alternative access to the remote meetings. Our alternative adequate access is via the Zoom platform, and the information hopefully that you can use to obtain access is posted on My Town Government with our agenda. Thank you very much. We'll take a roll call to determine whether you have a quorum. Carolyn
Here.
and Julie,
Here.
Ellie,
Here.
Wayne,
Here.
Eloise. She's here. Tim here. Here. And then that's it. We've got a quorum. We'll call the meeting to order at 7:47.
Here.
Hey, there she is. Thanks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Terms. Julie, you and I emailed back and forth. Do you have any news about your status?
Sadly, no. I was looking for someone else on rec to sit on this, just because I'm feeling like I have enough committees that I sit on. But nobody's really chomping at the bit to do it. So I think I'm just gonna, we meet again next week anyway, it's for the pavilion project.
Okay,
So I'm gonna revisit it
they're honest.
then. Maybe bring some banana bread and
I
someone will do
mean,
it.
that transition can happen at any time.
Okay,
So I think, as Eloise would say, until someone else is duly appointed, you're stuck.
yeah.
I
Okay, no problem.
I think that's what she says, but we understand, and our meeting load is going to be light going forward for a while because we don't have a lot of projects coming in, so
I
that
feel your
midnight
pain,
light-
Julie.
a little easier.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, that's
Yeah.
okay. It is what it is.
Yep. And Eloise, did I ask you already if you got reappointed by your committee?
Sadly, they did.
Perfect. Okay, good. So that's it, squares away that issue. Minutes of 7/18/23. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to accept the minutes of 7/18.
And a second?
Second.
And any additions or corrections? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call. Carolyn,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Ellie,
Aye.
Wayne,
Aye.
Eloise,
Aye.
Tim, aye. Good, that's done. Invoices and payments. Carolyn, I screwed up. Back when we put the article together for the 72 Carter, we had included a cushion in there initially, but then when we modified the article, we just ended up leaving the money amount in for the purchase of the land and not any extraneous expenses. So as a result, we had no cushion, and we have to spend 125 on the purchase of the land. That means that and according to Stuart from the consortium for CPA, if you use administrative funds from CPA for appraisals and other miscellaneous items before town meeting, that's allowed. Once you go to town meeting and you've had the vote, any monies that are used for those additional expenses has to come out of the article or some other source from the town. And so, since we have two bills, one for the phase 1 assessment on the site and one for some legal help from KP Law. We're trying to figure out a way to pay those. One is for $527 or something like that. And
Right, so we've found the money for that.
so we can pay that with money that's sitting in the Conservation Commission's expenses from 2023, 500, and then you got another 25 or $30 or whatever. So
Right.
Conservation will probably vote on that tomorrow night, and I assume they'll generously support that effort. But that still leaves us with another, what, 2,500? Is that what it was?
I think it's 3,500.
Yeah,
3,500.
3,500 for the phase
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
And we asked Kristen if there was a possibility of using some ARPA money for that, since we're sort of in a bind, and she said that there's no free ARPA money right now. So we're gonna have to scratch our heads and figure this out. We're not really sure how we're gonna do this, but that's the status of that.
So Tim, the only thing I thought that you might be able to do, because I've been looking at the coalition stuff too, and I would rather you definitely run this by town accountant and town administrator, and it will delay the payment of the invoice, but I think you're all going to be having not a fall town meeting, a winter town meeting. And if maybe you put something into that town meeting for payment on that invoice at that time, and then maybe you could use administrative fees. And maybe run that by Stuart, June, and Kristen, but it was just me brainstorming, trying to think out of the box, because
Right.
3,500's a lot, but the
Right.
good news is it's at least invoiced in FY24. So the pressure to me was the KP Law one. This one's not as high pressured because we're
Right.
still in the same fiscal year. So that's just the thought that I thought maybe, I don't know. I just thought maybe. And I hear you having a winter town meeting. I don't know. That's what I heard. I don't know.
Who did you
We
hear
know.
that from?
I'll tell you tomorrow in town offices, Eloise.
And right now, we don't have any other bills to pay, so we're all set.
Yeah.
Updates, CP3, Maureen and I'll work on the filing of the CP3. We have to file a status report on all our projects with the state in order to be eligible for the payout in November. The match to whatever we generate internally is determined by, well, one of the determinations is the fact that we file a CP3 report. So basically, we just look at the different projects. The data's already been entered for the projects that we've voted in the past. And we just update those, add anything new, and give a status report. And if it's not complete or in progress or completed, and that way we get eligible for the payout. So we'll be doing that.
Yeah, so all the forms went out, Tim, for the 9 projects. And I've heard from the community fence. James is gonna wait till it's complete to send the form in. Carolyn and Maddie got the Horseshoe Pond.
Carter, right?
I'm probably gonna kick back 72 Carter to her, because she's accurate saying it's in progress, but if by September 15th, it will probably be complete. So,
Maybe.
yeah, so I'm holding on that. I did hear back on the pavilion. I'll touch base with June Miller on her 3, and then the courts, and Julie's here tonight, the courts and the announcement. So that form, if that's filled out, that's great. And then I'm going to then submit that also to Kristen in June. So they'll be able to use that for their part to the state. So it's kind of this whole chain kind of thing. So, and hopefully everybody looked at the form, and if you didn't like it, or think something should be added or taken off, just let me know. No big deal.
Where are these forms?
So I sent them via email 2 Sundays ago. I can send them back to you.
It's
No, I can
also,
search my email.
right,
It's
it's
okay.
also on the email with the minutes and the agenda for tonight.
Correct, yes,
Perfect.
a draft, yeah. And I sent you 2, so that you'd have 2 individual, like, response backs, yeah.
Okay, no problem.
72 Carter, what do we know, Carolyn? Anything update on that?
So I saw an email today from the lawyers. The seller's lawyer emailed town council saying it's probably going to be 4 more weeks. He's still waiting for some documents from her, from the seller, and she's on the West Coast, so everything's it's not like he can swing by her house and pick it up. And there's still a federal tax lien and a state tax lien that need to be cleared. And then permission from the probate court to sell the property. So he was hoping to get that done by August 31st, but it does not appear that that is going to happen. So 4 more weeks. So September.
But the good thing is that it's not the town that's holding this up.
That's what I responded back to town council. I'm like, as long as we've done everything,
Yeah.
tomorrow night, the Conservation Commission needs to vote to accept the deed.
Okay,
And then I believe the town has done everything it's supposed to be doing.
good. The community garden fence is up and the paperwork is being processed as best I know, and you know anything to add on that, Maureen? You talked to James and he's gonna submit stuff to you next week or so?
Yeah, so, but I just said by, the 1st of September would be fine. And then I think Kristen, so she has the invoice and just waiting to get a sign off that every, whatever inspection, what check kind of thing, and then that will
Right.
be submitted. So yeah, so that's good.
Oh, it looks good.
That came in
Julie.
under budget,
Mhm.
question mark?
I didn't see the final figure.
Yeah,
Yes,
Oh,
it
I
did.
thought I had heard that somewhere.
I think
It was,
I thought it said 37 versus 45. This what the
yeah,
quote
and they
accepted.
did modify to some degree, so it might have jumped a little above 37, but it's under the 45 without any trouble.
Awesome.
Great.
The booth, Julie, the booth is still on track to be built sometime or what?
So the hiccup there with the booth is ADA accessibility wasn't factored in, and because it's so significantly higher than ground level, the cost far exceeds the $10,000.
Sure.
So they're exploring the idea of making it more ground level, but they don't love that idea. Because announcement booths, the perspective is better, naturally higher for a baseball game. So sadly, I think they're looking at it as a board. I just spoke with them this afternoon, but they don't love being ground, even if it's lifted a little bit. So they may be coming back to CPA and saying, thank you, but it's outside their scope.
Okay, good. And then the scoreboard is done.
Correct, that's done and paid.
And now how did it get paid?
So I think that was paid prior to us having anybody, that was done back in June of last summer, was that right? If I have that right? So that was paid through June. Because the money was in the rec account.
But so CPA didn't pay anything.
That money is sitting in the recreations account. I don't know how June does her money, so I can't really speak to that. I do know the invoice was sent to her.
And she paid.
and- Correct. Correct, so that was
think-
for,
I think
ahead.
after town meeting, she moves the money into the appropriate account.
correct.
I think
Because we
that
still
happened
have.
with Horseshoe Pond too.
Mhm. Because there was no plan in place that it was going through CPAC to have that paid until, I think what I just read that in the last minutes, is that right?
Yeah, but I'm still surprised that in our conversations with her about what's been paid, we were left with the sense that there was still a lot of unpaid projects.
So there is a bit of unpaid because the announcement booth and the scoring, what is that called? Scoreboard. There was one project at town floor, but it was broken into two because there were two separate projects, 20,000. So 10 went to one and 10 went to one. So she paid, I think it was 9,800 and something to Scoreboard Enterprise for the scoreboard. So there's still
And
10,
then Clinton Savings Bank paid directly for the electrical and the installation.
I think they worked with baseball, so there was something that, I think they paid baseball, or baseball worked that out with them. We weren't involved in that part.
Okay,
But there's still money there.
there's still just
Wh-
under over 10,000 that's left in that.
Correct.
account. Okay,
Yes, that's right.
we'll check with June.
Okay. We confirmed with Scoreboard Enterprise today that the invoice has been paid.
Okay, and then in regard to the tennis courts,
Yes.
which
So
look
that one,
fantastic.
yeah, they look so good. Yeah, they came out really nice. There's definitely, everything's a learning curve, right? There were some hiccups along the way for sure. I think now Kristen has said, moving forward for larger projects, probably a clerk of the works or a project manager is a better idea. And then for smaller projects that we can manage in-house, she's gonna be working on sort of a board sign off. I think CPA probably will do the same thing. To have that done before any construction takes place, so we don't run into like the conservation issue we had with the pond and the silt fencing and all of that. But as far as the invoices go, there's several funding sources for those courts. 100,000 came from CPA. So Kristen volunteered to take on, she has the invoice on her desk. She volunteered to take on managing the payout of the invoice because it's coming from, I think, 4 different funding sources. So she asked that we just have a conversation about it tonight and then just advise her on whether or not that's something that this board is okay with her doing. Or if we want
Yeah.
to do the 100 from CPA and then she manages splitting that up, but that kind of seems a little messy. But then once that invoice is paid, that's done and the scoreboard's done, and it's just that announcement booth.
Okay,
So
good.
Julie, is it just one total invoice for this whole project?
I believe that's what it is. I haven't seen the invoice. Kristen just said she has it.
Okay,
So I can't even answer that, Maureen, because I haven't even seen the copy of it yet.
okay.
And
That's
and
good.
so,
Okay.
do you know what the total sum was for the whole project?
I know what we were quoted at. I don't know the whole sum. We ended up quoted at 176.
Okay,
But there were additional add-ons added in. So I have to go speak with Kristen actually tomorrow about the invoice.
so the committees, I mean, what we've essentially said is that we would pass materials on to June for payment, just to verify the fact that, we had some opportunity to check in on the status of the project. But in this case, I think Julie's right and Kristen's right. It's far more complex than just one source of funds from us. It's multiple sources. So we wouldn't have a clue about those others. Everybody's comfortable with Kristen riding herd on this project?
Sure.
Do we want
So
to vote?
move.
Yeah, I
So
was gonna
moved,
say.
okay, yep. And
Second,
then a second?
Yep.
Any additional discussion?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Eloise. Eloise, do you want to vote in favor of this?
Yes.
And Wayne,
Yes.
Ellie,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes,
Carolyn,
Aye.
and Tim, I. So it's unanimous. That's great. And I'll reach out to Kristen and let her know that we're fine with that.
okay.
Yeah, but can I just take a second and say, Julie, great job on that.
Yeah,
Thank
They're
you.
such an
it really
asset.
looks good.
I got a text message from AJ, I think on Sunday. There were 42 people
Wow.
at the court on Sunday. 40,
Wow,
yeah,
wow.
between family and, participants and people watching and everything. It's
yeah.
just, it's
Yeah.
huge. So.
Yeah,
good
it's
job.
great. It's great. Yep. So Carolyn, we're gonna be taking down the silt fence. Not that I have any idea how to do that, but I'm gonna learn how to do that.
Let us
can
know
I
if you
ask
need help.
What should we do with all this stuff?
What is it? Is it the plastic?
The plastic with the wooden stakes
Stakes?
attached. I mean, it
And then
might,
there's-
Did you get the rolled straw?
Yes, that's there too.
oh, the wattles are there too.
Wattles, yeah.
Yep, so the wattles, if you want, and I don't imagine that you do, but the wattles, generally, the way those are disposed of is they're cut open and the plastic net is taken out. And then the material inside is just scattered, but usually they're like in the woods. So I don't know if you want to do that on the field, you can. On the, but don't make sure it doesn't end up in the pond.
No, yeah, I think I'll
Yeah.
just remove it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
It's probably pretty heavy though, because it's probably waterlogged.
There
Yeah.
could be critters in it.
Right.
Could be what in it?
Critters like
Oh.
snake and stuff.
I have 4 kids. We'll find that stuff.
3 of
get
them
it
are
out.
boys. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get it out of there. Okay, okay. All right, thank you.
Yep. And then the rest of the stuff, I mean, it might be easier if you pull the wooden stakes off
Mhm.
and roll up the plastic and then just have a bundle of the stakes. And I
Okay.
just bring it to the transfer station.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right, great. Thank you.
If they're reusable, ask Freddie if he wants to store them.
Oh yeah, the stakes.
That's a good idea. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
All right on that one then. That's great.
Thank you.
I'll chat with Kristen. The housing coordinator has been hired. It's a woman that's been working in Cambridge with their housing authority. She's going to start next week, is my understanding. So she'll be meeting soon with the housing trust or members of the housing trust. I guess what's going to happen is that the 5 towns that are participating will each have a member that'll serve on a committee that'll sort of serve as a sounding board for this new hire from CMRPC that's going to be their regional housing coordinator. So we're one of 5 towns that's going to benefit from this. We'll get 4 hours a week of support, and that means that I think we'll probably begin to see some project proposals from the housing trust by the town meeting, the annual town meeting in May next year. So that's a positive improvement. And Eloise, do you have anything to add about the housing trust? You haven't heard anything in particular. I haven't gone to any of their recent meetings. Stephanie, I can't remember Stephanie's last name. Stephanie from the Metro West Development Corp that advises the Assabet Regional Housing Collaborative, which we're part of, met with the Housing Trust at one of their most recent meetings. And she's been giving them information about the status of our position on the subsidized housing inventory. And right now, the planning board's been working with Central Mass Regional Planning to update the housing production plan, which in the latest figures that we saw, we're still at about 15% of affordable units in town. So we're still scoring pretty high. And that didn't include the two most recent projects on South Street and on Highland Street. So that number will be stable at somewhere around 15. And if the Housing Trust gets up and active, they may be able to use some tax title land or whatever. I think that's one of the things in their interest window is to tackle some of that land and perhaps get Habitat for Humanity or whatever to come in and build some affordable units. So that's what I know about the trust. And other projects, I don't think we've got any other on the list. Anybody want to update us on anything that's exciting and happening in any of their particular arenas? Julie's given us a lot of good information. Carolyn's given us some. Anything exciting happening with the Historical Commission, Ellie?
Not particularly. I think we're still working through, we got the Title V for the Bullard House, and I think the water testing for the neighbors well. I think it's still waiting for the structural engineer and guys to get agreement as to what's the best project for. I think at this point, it's really fixing the drainage, because I think the drainage is causing the problems with the foundation.
Yeah.
And a lot of the drainage is really attached to the old town hall project. When they put in, when they did the grading to put in the area for the elevator and the parking lot up and back, it caused problems of water drainage going into the cellar of the Bullard House. So I think at this point, we're looking to solve both of the problems at once, just kind of wrapping into fixing the parking, the affordable, the handicap access parking for the old town hall and the parking lot up there, and getting the drainage into the Bullard House fixed so that we can have a better understanding and hopefully a cheaper solution for the foundation for the Bullard House.
And
But
Kristen's
none of
been-
it's very fast.
Yeah, Kristen's been joining you in that conversation and indicated that there
Yes.
might be some other additional funding out of ARPA to help with that, since it's not.
Yeah,
a
I think
problem.
that right now, the parking lot for the old town hall isn't compliant for handicap access right now because it's not paved. So if we fix that, hopefully we can loop in some of the problems with the drainage for the Bullard House at the same time.
Great. Good.
And if I could recommend, as someone who uses that building once a month and have a lot of elderly people in our wood turning club, if you do something with the driveway, if you could put a walkway, if the front entrance is going to not be used and the back entrance is going to be used, but people are going to park on the street, it's a little hazardous, especially walking downhill at
Yeah.
night when it's dark. And the
Mm.
average age of our wood turning club is probably 70, maybe
That
even older.
old, huh?
Yeah.
Fossils, my God.
Or
Yeah.
older.
Or older, oh,
Yes.
yeah, great. That's not old anymore, is it, Eloise?
No, it really isn't old anymore, but
You're cruel, Timothy.
I think I'm trying to be nice to them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Any
But
other
just
update?
something to think about.
Yeah, good. Other updates? We're all set?
yeah.
Signage, now that we've got these projects that have been
Oh, yeah.
complete, we need to throw some signs on them. Any ideas, anybody?
Well, you guys had submitted a bunch of information, and Maureen had a bunch of ideas from other places, and I was going to look at that. I just have not had a chance to do it. The contact had asked a bit, he was nice enough to say we could have contacted him over the summer, but he'll be getting back. So I want to just spend some time. I don't think it'll take me too much to come up with some I'd said that I would do that to look at the different projects and look at different options and, what makes sense and come up with some kind of a design.
So are we talking about a sign that is a temporary sign that says this project in works is, supported by, and then a more permanent sign at the end of the project? Is,
I think so.
Yeah,
I think certainly a permanent sign.
and then, as you've said, Carolyn, I mean, sometimes there, if it's a project like the land on Horseshoe Pond, the sign would be significantly different perhaps than the one that we'd put on the tennis courts or the fence at the community garden.
Yeah, or we can make something distinct so that everybody knows when they see that sign,
Mm-hmm.
it's a CPA project.
That's a good idea.
And then that way it doesn't actually have to be all that big. If it's recognizable.
So I think as school gets started and Assabet gets going again, Wayne can continue to work on that.
Yeah.
Opportunity, and then
I think there were a lot of good ideas and signs.
they'll throw us some ideas,
in
probably,
other
right?
places. Yeah, I mean, for me, I'd rather it be consistent. It doesn't need to be some big, huge thing. I think if it's something that, if Horseshoe Pond is going to have its own guide map or, whatever kind of type sign, and, we can just be on that.
Mhm.
I think that's, so the more, for me, consistency is better, because then people will kind of get to know it. So maybe we can come up with a logo-y type thing, or maybe there's something from the state that they already do. So I just don't remember that. So I'll take a look at it. If we have to come up with our own sort of type of logo using the CPAC or whatever, or CPA, we can do that.
Great. Any other thoughts on signage?
Totally trust Wayne.
That's your first mistake.
Mhm.
No, I think it'll be good, but I think it just has to be able to, just have different iterations of how it's produced, like, to mount on the fence at the courts, or, near the pavilion, or, on one of the, I don't know what you're gonna call it, post
Kiosk.
pavilion. Yeah, something like that, whatever, on a kiosk, I think that's the thing. And I was at I didn't say earlier, but I was up at I can honestly say I have never really walked the South Common in, I don't know, 40 years or more. Drive by it all the time, but I was up there on Saturday with my grandkids, and the courts look fabulous. So they really do.
Yeah, they do. They did a great job.
Really great resource, but even the playgrounds and stuff, we were using those with the kids.
Mm.
It was really great. So
Yep. And that other playground's getting redone too on the town side.
nice.
So much,
Julie,
so much happening.
I think you touched on the pavilion. What's the status of the pavilion project is where are we now?
Okay, so the status is this, these materials have been ordered, and there's about a 3-month time on that. So we as a committee now are discussing placement of the pavilion, because we don't want to put it in the wrong spot. And I think this speaks to, we were discussing as a committee, why there should be a master plan, right, for those grounds. So it's sort of, we don't just put it somewhere without thinking about everything else that goes into that. So where it was written in the article just for the amount of money. It wasn't written specifically where we were going to place it. The description, however, did suggest it was going to be on the pond side. But now we're just looking to get some weigh-in from the school, the superintendent, the police, conservation, fire, some pretty, big parties in town on maybe where they would like to see it placed. That side, we're calling it pond side versus south side. And to see what are the advantages and disadvantages to both. So the materials have been ordered, but now the committee has to decide where to place this pretty massive structure.
How big is it?
It's 22 by 44. It's pretty big.
Yeah.
When you do it, is it gonna be staked out so that other people can go just to visualize it?
What do you mean when we do it, when we have the conversation?
Yeah, when you start getting down to, where is it actually gonna be? Are you gonna stake it in there so that nosy people like me can take a run down?
So that's actually a really good point. We had discussed actually having an open forum for community to weigh in on this. And then unfortunately, in the interest of time, because it's probably we're going to intersect by the time we put this out to bid and when the materials come in. And in the bid, we have to have the location. So we have to move on this quickly. We are going to meet as a committee down there to have cones around, or we're gonna spray paint it or something like you're talking about, Eloise, but for the general public to see. We were thinking, should we poll people on social media? What is the best way to do this? And we don't really know the answer to that. I think when this was,
So it's a definite maybe.
it's a definite maybe. We could actually even take photos and then post that to social media, but it only hits the people that are on social media, right? It doesn't get probably, it doesn't, I don't even know what percentage of people in town that hits.
Mary has that master list of 140 or whatever number of town associated people
Mhm.
that it represents all the committees and boards and everything. Even just that group there might filter out to a number of other folks. If you said we're going to mark it out and it's going to be marked for 2 days, if you get a chance to swing by and see it and you want to give us some ideas, go ahead.
All right. That's a very good idea. Okay.
How many are on that list, Eloise? There's a lot, aren't there?
I believe so. Eric Shatner also said a lot of people are signed in with the police. So once you get definitive, we can spread the information around.
Okay, that's a good idea. I like that. Leave it out there for a couple days, and if people want to stroll down and see it. That's smart.
Great.
Okay, thank you. Good
Yeah.
feedback.
No, thanks. I'm glad we talked about that because that's exciting too.
Yeah, that is.
So Julie, when you and I talked about pond side, I didn't realize that you meant like one side of the driveway or the other. So when I was
Yes.
saying not pond side, I was like not that close to the pond.
Got it. Okay.
But that side of the driveway is fine.
You mean the
know,
pond side of the driveway? Is that what you mean?
Yep.
Yeah. Problem too is there's piping underneath there.
Oh,
There's a fire, and there's the drainage from the school. There's
yeah,
some considerations because there's pipes there too.
right.
Nothing's easy, guys. Nothing is easy. Okay. But that's
Right?
okay. We learn a lot along the way. Okay.
Yep.
Julie, if it was easy, anybody could do it.
I know. I
And-
tell my workout clients that all the time, Tim. I say that all the time. Yep.
Right.
You're
So-
right. You're right.
That's why we've got you on the job. Good.
Yeah, right.
CPA administrative expenses. Ta-da. So we've learned some things, and as a result, Maureen and I have been chatting about making sure that we include all the expenses and understand how to front load them if it's a project that is allowed that way. And then the fact that once, as Stuart has said, the town meeting votes, our administrative availability for funds is gone. So Maureen, did you want to chime in on this topic?
Just in the next couple of weeks, I'll draft up some sort of policy, and I'm thinking your application's becoming a packet versus just an application. So it can go in with the application packet for the next round of stuff. So, it's just, like you said, it's a learning curve. And,
Right.
then if there's just information put down in black and white, anyone that might be an applicant will realize that that's something that they need to take into consideration. So I'll work on some sort of draft and get
Yeah.
it for you guys.
I think
Yeah.
it can just be an addendum to the existing application or just part of that application that we already have, you know, where they're gonna list out their specs.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Just list out the things that they need to consider. Think of all the things that didn't get included and just a laundry list of what they are. Make sure you've included this, and that, you know, are these things, you know, does the project require these kinds of sign-offs, approvals, research, whatever? Just a checklist like that, just be a part of the application instead of something separate. I would just say the more it's all in one, the better.
yeah. What I mean is in packet, it's not just going to be like the 2 pages anymore because the
No.
other part of it is the same thing, like when they come in for their first talk with you, you'll give them direction if they need to go to see conservation or if they need to go see the schools, like, and those would be like little checklists. So it's like, I guess I was just kind of saying, it's not going to be, what I'm saying is, I'm just keep adding stuff to the application.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that'll be coming up the next time we get together, probably.
So can I just go back to the conversation with this unpaid $3,500 invoice? So are we still looking for other options to pay it now, or do we really think it's going to turn out to be what Maureen said, that it's going to have to wait until there's a town meeting?
Yes,
We don't have the money, and I don't believe.
and we don't have the
conservation-
money.
Conservation isn't gonna chime in.
So
Right,
and-
well,
it-
the only, we don't have the money in our budget, we don't have the money in open space. We do have the money in our wetlands account, but we can't spend it on this. So we don't really have the money to spend.
so we've communicated back to whoever this is owed. I assume that we have this problem, or no? Or
I'm not sure if anyone's told them yet.
No,
This has kind of all happened in the last week or so.
I'm assuming that would be
So-
part that would happen, right?
yeah, because Kristen, I mean, again, Kristen and Carolyn and I were sharing emails on it tonight, trying to figure out, you know,
Okay.
what our options are. So we'll
Okay.
sit down. I told Chris, she's on vacation early next week, but I'm probably gonna catch up with her at the end of next week to meet.
Is it something that the finance committee can pay and then the community preservation can reimburse the finance committee after the town meeting?
I think the problem we've got is that we can't use administrative funds after the vote at town meeting, and June has held that belief, and then Stuart reinforced that with his notice to us. So
I mean,
I
it's
don't know if we
you know,
can,
it's sizable, but I mean,
Yeah.
for the company, I mean, if they can float it, I mean,
Right,
no,
well,
you're right.
to
I mean, we-
Eloise's
Yeah, good point.
point, if it could be paid some other way at town meeting, we could take it out of the CPA money, not the administrative money, but the open space. And
you just have to
pay
write an
back
art-
whoever,
Couldn't you just we'd have to just write an article to expend it, right?
Right.
Even as part of
Right.
that project, an addendum to the project.
I mean, we can certainly look at that.
Particularly if it won't finish until this fiscal year. It's
I-
not like you're going and doing something from last fiscal year.
Right.
right,
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's the benefit. Anyway, it's we're in.
All
we're in
right,
a
didn't
bind,
go
So
back. Thanks.
we'll continue to work on that one.
Great learning experience.
Yeah.
yep, yes. Yeah,
Yes.
and when Kristen and I were debating on, so town council is the one who recommended the phase one. So we hadn't even thought about that when we were, trying to figure out what the expenses might be. Usually it's just legal fees.
Yeah.
And so town council recommended that. and Kristen felt fairly comfortable at that point that there would be ARPA funds should we, as a last resort, and now it turns out that that's not something that's available. So
But, you
that's
know,
how,
all the ARPA funds haven't been dedicated, though, to my understanding. And
What are the ARPA funds? Just because I'm just being stupid here.
so the feds pump that stimulus money into each
Oh,
state coffer, and then the state passed that out to the communities. So some ARPA money went to the tennis courts,
Yes, that's correct.
and some ARPA money has gone to highway improvements. And there's some ARPA money, well, and part of that might very well go to help with the Complete Streets application, so we can get some sidewalk work done. I mean, there's a lot of different ways in which it's been utilized, and the
Cool.
notion that we might raise our hand again on that. It hasn't been voted by the selectmen, but it might very well be something that we could go back to the select board and say, we're in a one-time bind here. It won't happen again. And as a result, can they bail us out?
right.
or you wait. I mean, it is what it is.
Public input. We don't have any public, so I doubt there'll be any public input. And the next meeting is now scheduled for September 19th. Is that a date that is on people's radar? That works?
Yep.
And
Yep.
what are we missing, Maureen?
Well, nothing. It was good that we got the
Mhm.
meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you both for prevailing and getting us linked
Oh.
up. That was good.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
If Wayne and I had to figure it out, it wouldn't have happened. Not a chance.
I will acknowledge that I noticed the nice move while I was on vacation that I'm now vice chair. So
I was waiting for that to come.
I figured I would just wait until now. So thank you very much. But don't get big ideas on where it progresses from there. So.
So you accept your nomination
It's up to, I don't really see
grudgingly?
what I have at this point, but yeah. But I'm just saying, don't get hurt.
I'm just saying,
That's it.
Telling you, I've got my limit. I can
Mhm.
handle this.
But thank you.
You're
We
welcome.
appreciate your willingness to serve.
Well, I'm on, so, but
Yeah.
I have a limit. Just letting you know. Lucky it was just vice.
Um,
Well,
anything
we're
else?
never gonna let Tim stop being chair, so.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No,
Tim
Um,
removed the
I really enjoy
antenna and-
I really enjoy being part of it. I'm still learning a lot, so.
You guys are a great group. I actually really enjoy it too. It's exciting versus the, anyways. But I will be sending out emails. I'll tweak the plan. It shouldn't be a big deal this year. Because we just pretty much set dates and adding on the new projects.
Can I just ask a question when you're talking about that? There was that number is how the plan, remember at town meeting, how that grid worked out? Did those numbers ever get squared away in what's posted as far
So
as?
they do match with what's on the state website. So, but I know at one meeting, your suggestion was to rename the categories. So this would be a good time to do that. So I'll just leave I'll do the data updates and then
I'm
you
sure
guys.
nobody's
should
like
do the-
chomping at looking at it, but I just don't want that to get lost. I mean, obviously, when you put it back in front, it'll come up, but I just think if you know what that all was, so when we get to that.
Yeah.
I-
Yeah, I'll
Because we're
I'll
gonna have
send-
the same conversation about.
Yeah, so, and you,
and does it-
right, and you come, and I think, you come up with how you want those labeled. What I can do, Wayne, is I can go and look at some other communities and see how they label it. Things people that have been doing it for 10, 15.
I think it was just the percentages that made it weird, because the percentages
Yeah.
the percentages were referencing two different like lines in the grid. They weren't
Right.
lined up and it just didn't make
Yeah.
any sense at that point.
Well,
So
in the.
we'll revisit it at that point. I don't want to.
Yeah, the reason why it's confusing is because where you guys are a 3% community, you get your initial match. And then you get more money after the fact. So that's where the confusion comes in. It's like, here's your first, then there's some other money, and then it comes in afterwards. Not, and so other communities that aren't 3% don't necessarily get that next bump that makes you almost 100%. But yeah, so I'll just enter the data, and then hopefully at the next meeting, people can have suggestions on what they want to see changed. And then Tim, I think in October is when you'll have your hearing, because you are required to do one hearing a year, and it usually is around the plan. So then we can get the hearing done, and then they're delayed on sending out the invoices for membership. We did get an email on that, so I haven't seen that yet. So I might follow up with that, once after September 1st. So those are kind of the things that I've got kind of working for you all.
So on our agenda for September will be a preliminary, we all ought to, if you can send the plan around to all of us just to tweak our memory. We ought to review the plan and get ourselves set up for a date in October to have the hearing, so we can get the public input if there's any. And then we want to talk about signage if because that's the 19th of September. Wayne, you might have a chance to get some feedback from Assabet by then. So if not, that's fine. We can move it off to October. But I mean, those are the two things.
There'll be a start by next time.
And then we've got this policy review on another addendum to or inclusion with the application process. So.
Yeah, and then I just want to get the forms back so that I can get all the forms, make a report, and then we'll report to the state, and then give town accountant and town administrator also a copy of that report on what we're reporting to the state as far as progress complete, all that
And
kind of stuff.
is that due September 15th or something like that?
Yeah, so what I have coming back to me is due August 31st. So I've got Carolyn's, James is going to give me his, I got the pavilion, Julie's going to get hers, and then I just have to talk to June Miller about her 3.
Okay.
So, and I'll see June probably maybe tomorrow or the next day. And then I'll compile that, and then I'll have that report for you on the 19th, even though we'll have already done the CP3 because that's due the Friday before that Tuesday.
All right.
Can I just ask one last question about money? Because I think it came up about this before. So if the fence came in less, and so there's going to be unspent money, what's do we have to wait till town meeting, or could it be how do the funds get put back into the coffers? Does it have to wait till the end of the fiscal year for that to happen? Or if they're finished their project and say we're done, does that get to go back in to be spent, as part of planning for the projects that might come in this year?
So that's something you're all going to have to address too. Like a lot of communities actually put expiration dates on the projects, and that's why these status forms are kind of important.
Well, I get that, but I get that.
Nothing
Right.
happens with them until there's something said. Because you all
Right.
did away with the sunset.
That's fine, but I'm just saying, but if the project gets signed off on, I know with historical.
I hear.
But I'm saying this fence project is gonna be done, so.
Right.
So they're not going to spend money later on, I would assume, so. That's my question, in the same.
And so the question is, does the money go back to open
Right.
space? Because that's where it came from. Or
Right.
does it go back into the
Well, 'cause if it
general
does,
reserve?
maybe there's your money to pay the bill, but.
No, because you
Right.
can't take it from a different article.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
I know,
I've been
was
trying to
trying to
encourage our
was
town.
spinning while you guys were talking. I was spinning. I'm like, how can we do that? How can we? But we can't.
So
Yeah.
Tim and I have also been talking that I've been really trying to see if I can get the town accountant to maybe come to one of our meetings
Might be a good thing.
we could do, yeah, and I keep saying it, but then that way, there'll be maybe a better understanding of everything. So I don't know, maybe December, I might be able to talk her into it. I don't know.
Well, certainly
Um,
before things get going with budget, because then that's it. So.
Yeah, like she's busy right now closing the books. Like I said, that's why I'm happy that the KP law is going to be taken care of. I was more anxious about the smaller amount versus the bigger amount, honestly. I was more nervous about that. But I do think if she was to come, and then she could even explain, because she has 2 other reports that she has to do to the state, that we're not really involved in, as far as the money that comes in from the surcharge and everything. So she could explain that to y'all, which I think would be beneficial too. But I'll see if I can get her on the agenda. We'll see. Yeah.
Something to talk about.
Yeah.
I
We've
know
also-
I have to report it when I do my portion of the recapitulation sheet.
Yep.
Mhm.
And I think it would be worth her time if we have a better understanding of the whole process. We can make it easy. We can do things more right. Not gonna say
Yeah.
totally right, but we can do them more right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, even to have the conversation about the paying of these invoices and make sure, what
Yep.
we're saying here makes sense.
Yeah.
Right.
And then at some point, I think down the road, we've talked about having the housing trust come in and maybe the housing coordinator just to brainstorm a little bit about. Because we've talked about whether we want to just release money to the housing trust like some towns do, or whether we want actual projects that are put to town meeting and voted as projects rather than just an allocation of funds that goes to housing for their determination. So we need to have a more robust conversation about that sometime down the road. And I think the housing coordinator and the housing trust would probably welcome an opportunity to talk to us later in the year about that, and once they get their ducks in a row. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a
Second.
second? And non-debatable, so it's Carolyn,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Wayne,
Aye.
Ellie,
Bye.
Eloise,
Aye.
Tim, aye.